today. Today I have Dr. Venkat with me, and I'll let him introduce before we start.
Hey, it's really great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on this program. It's a pleasure. Well, what can I say? I get excited about programming. I enjoy coding. I talk about programming. I share what I know, and I learn from others. That's basically what I do.
Amazing. So, to give a little backstory, I get to know about Dr. Venkat in December 2025 from the local Java user group organizer, Eric. And he was like, oh, on January, he's coming. One of my favorite speakers is coming to this place. And I'm so excited. I was like, okay, that's one of your favorite from all. He says, like, yes, you should come and listen. So, the moment he put it on the calendar, he put every guest, future and previous, in his website and the Java mug. So I research about what you do, the books you wrote, award-winning book, and everything. I was like, okay, I should go in that tent. There's no way I cannot attend. So then I came to the Java user group event in January. Then I get to win this actually book, notebook. Yeah, I use it like for two sides. One is like for AI, the other side is for data structure and algorithm. So I won this one, and also I get to know about the Arc of AI conference, which I wear the t-shirts. I won the free tickets, which was very generous of you. Like you give for 25 people every year. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to know everyone in that conference. I had a very good time. But I have a question. So, what is the thought process of having two successful conference in 1 year? Because both of them are demanding, and also like I don't know the objective for each separately, but why not combine them?
Yeah, so first of all, Eric is awesome, and he's been running the Dallas Java user group for such a long time. So I definitely admire all the effort he and others have put into the community. So that's great. So one of the things that I was very interested in is I've been speaking in conferences for right about 20 plus years now, and I travel around the world. I spent a lot of time in Europe speaking in conferences as well. And one of the thoughts that I had in my mind was, as I travel to these conferences, especially ones in Europe, there's some amazing speakers from around the world come and share their knowledge. So my question was, what if we get to bring those speakers in so we can learn from them here at home? That's basically the idea. So I live in Colorado. So I decided to start that conference in Colorado back in 2020, as we know, the infamous year for the pandemic, and everything derailed, unfortunately, because of COVID. But we were persistent. We stayed long enough, and then we restarted the effort. And our first conference was in 2024 here in Denver, Colorado. We have run the conference twice so far in Denver area, and we've had speakers from the US, from Europe, from Asia, so literally all over the world. And part of the objective for me to start the conference is twofold. One is, what if developers here can learn from the expertise from around the world? That's one. But to me, also give opportunity for new speakers who are extremely good but have just not broken into the conference space. In all honesty, one of the things I've really enjoyed running this conference for the past 2+ years is getting to know some speakers who are really, really good, but I never knew of them before we started. So that is one of the objectives. Then coming back to your other question, why two separate conferences? When we started out, Dev 2 Next, as the name kind of alludes to, what's next for the developers? And as we know, the world has changed quite drastically in the past few years. When we first put the conference together, there was not much talk about AI. And so the question was, what do developers want to focus as the next thing to do? So the focus of Dev to Next has been entirely on architecture, DevOps, current trends, agility, programming languages. But more important for me are two other tracks that we don't often have enough in other conferences. One is on leadership, but more importantly, the other one is on what I like to call as wealth and wellness. Now, people come and say, God, did you mean health and wellness? No, 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 it's wealth and wellness. So part of the thing is, I'm of a firm belief that money doesn't bring you happiness, but money gives you leverage. And as a developer, we are spending so much effort on our jobs. If we tend to forget where we are going, it becomes an issue when we become that 65-year-old or the 70-year-old. And problem is, a lot of things in life you can't catch up in a short term. It's very difficult to wake up one day and say, I want to be healthy tomorrow. Sorry, it's hard. When you are 70, you don't get to decide you want to be healthy the next day. You need to start that when you are 20, when you are 30, when you are 40. Same thing with wealth. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I want to be rich tomorrow. Well, money takes legally, money takes a long time to build. And so to me, that's one of the reasons I wanted to focus on wealth and wellness, because these two things take a long term to build. So that's basically what we put together. And of course, along the way, we had this birth of burst of excitement around AI. And we wanted to create a conference focused on AI, and that's basically what Arc of AI is. Now, as we know, software field is pretty broad today, and we still have these different concerns. How can you get good at architecture? How can you get good at DevOps? How can you get good at keeping track of current trends and what's happening? So Dev2Next continues to focus on those, and Arc of AI focuses on AI related topics. So that's basically the reason for two separate conferences. And as you would expect, there's going to be some overlap. So in Dev2Next, there is a few talks that come from AI, but those talks are not AI specific talks, but those that focus on how do I use AI for DevOps? How do I create an architecture with the help of AI? But then there are talks that are focused entirely on architecture or DevOps or other things that are not related to AI as well. So Dev2Next kind of keeps it focused on what's next for developers. Arc of AI, on the other hand, as you evidenced being there, goes deep into almost any different aspect of AI, right from using AI for software development to using AI within your product development and everything in between as well. So I think these two conferences will continue to grow with that emphasis that is different from each other.
Yeah, that's really good. So if it has to be like only one, probably Dave Tunics will swallow Arc of AI, maybe possibility, just only one.
I don't think the goal is not to have one or to have many. The goal is to provide value to the community. That's the goal. And so where do we provide the best value is the question, right? So you don't one of the things you don't want to do is to walk around with a size 10 shoes and see what feet can I find to fit it. The question is, here's my feet, what shoe will fit right for it is the question you need to ask, really, right? So to me, the angle I take is not from running the conference. The angle I take is from knowing what the community actually needs, and then come back and decide. So at some point, if we decide one is not no value, then obviously we won't continue to run it. So that is not the goal is to merge them or to keep them separate, but the goal is to provide the right value to the communities.
Yeah, that was one of the best thing that I like about the conference. Actually, it was very like deep. You can go deeper or high level based on the schedule you select, and also there's no vendor try to grab your attention. So it was purely content, educational content. So it was really good.
Yeah, and that's one of the key things for us is Sometimes people come and ask us, what are these large companies? Where are they? Why are they not coming and presenting? And that's exactly the point. Is glad you noticed, because we want really this to be from the practitioners who tell us the journey they have taken, where they have benefited, what struggles they have faced. We don't want vendors to be coming and selling their products. One of the things time and again we have gotten, and I'm not trying to brag myself in here, but a few people who were at the conference came to me and said, I've been to several conferences myself, they said, but one of the things very disappointing in a lot of conferences is that it's a begin to end, it's a marketing pitch. And whereas here, I feel like I'm really getting a good exposure to what I should be focusing on to take back to my company, rather than a vendor trying to tell me that I should be using their product. That to me, so to me, one of the most valuable things, right? I can ask you to give me $10, right? And you may be willing to depart $10. But the most valuable thing in the world is the time. Because once you spend that time, you're never going to ever get it back. And to me, what I value people's time a lot, because if you're going to give me 10 minutes of your time, I want to be sure I give you what is worth of that 10 minutes. Because to me, that is the deepest respect, is somebody giving you their time. So when people are spending their time away from work, away from their homes, traveling to a different city to attend a conference, I respect that. I want to be sure that they are receiving what they need to receive, to respect their time away from the things they have taken, away from. And to me, that's very important, to be very responsive and respectful of that.
Yeah, that's so another thing that I liked about the conference also, the description and the for the speakers. For example, if you're speaking, you may get paid or may not get paid depending on the what is it, the outcome of the conference. So it gives that uh, sense of ownership as a speaker, someone is speaking there. So it gives like, okay, whatever there's going to be is going to be the profit of all our together. So that was creative. I mean, like, I'm new for the conference world, but I didn't see this so far. So that was a good one.
That was another one that I really, as we were thinking through, is, while there are a lot of nice conferences around the world, one of the challenges, I hear from being on the other side, right? As a speaker, I get to sit down with speakers and listen to what they are saying. And a lot of times I hear from speakers saying, hey, I'm shelling money out of my own pocket to come and speak at this conference. My company is not paying for me to come and speak. This is a huge burden on me to take time away from work and then to come and speak and still have to spend all this money. And so the question to me was, what can we do to support those speakers who are not working for these big corporations, who are not being sent by their bosses to go to these conferences, but they still have the talent, they have the knowledge, they have the expertise, and they want to go share it. How can we support them? And in that regard, we decided to pay for travel for speakers who are needing travel. Now, obviously, we don't have a bottomless budget. We can just spend every money that we not have specifically. And in the U.S. especially, the conference market is extremely tight right now. So we are. I'll be honest about it, right? This openness is something that I really value. We've been running the conference at a loss, literally, for the past four or five times, and we typically are losing about $100,000 per conference we are running. But at the same time, we want to really respect the speakers who are not able to pay for themselves to come and speak. So we are paying for the speakers' travel and accommodation for those who cannot, support through their companies. And for those who are, able to support through their companies, we are very thankful. Again, with the emphasis, they're not coming and giving a marketing talk. That is something, one of the things that we've been very careful about is the program committee has no visibility into which speaker we are paying for travel and which speaker is their company is paying for travel. They don't have any visibility into it. So the talk selected by the program committee is entirely based on the merits of the talk. You'd be surprised. How many talks we decline saying this is a marketing pitch, we're not going to accept this in the conference. It
Yeah.
didn't matter the companies are willing to pay for them to come and speak, because we're not going to take marketing talks into the conference. And at the same time, when the committee has finished the decision, that's when we the people who are going to really spend the money on this then look at the budget and say, here is how much money we can spend on travel. Just to give you an idea, we're spending about $20,000 just on travel expenses. And,
Wow.
and, and of course, with $20,000, we can bring a number of speakers, but we cannot bring all of them. So if we have 10 speakers from Europe who wants to come, there goes your $20,000 already almost. So we have to balance it out, right? So we say, okay, so given these people whose stocks have been selected, those who didn't get selected, it doesn't matter. But among the ones who are selected, how many can we afford to pay? Oh, if we bring two people from, San Jose and let's say, Reston, Virginia, as an example, and one from North Carolina, maybe their ticket comes to about $1,800 collectively. And then we bring one person from Europe, their ticket comes to $1,500 to $1,800. Well, we have four local speakers, so to say, from the US, and one speaker from abroad, from Europe. That's kind of the balancing we have to make to see what we can reasonably accommodate. And at that time, we decide based on, if they are working for a really good corporation and yet they want us to pay, but if they're coming from abroad, hey, in that money, we could actually bring four speakers from the US rather than one from maybe somewhere in Europe. We tend to balance things out. It's a lot of things are going on into it. And then of course, if we end up making profit after that, we're not a money-making machine in this case. We are here to drive this for the community. So if we do end up with a good number of sponsors, which we have not had so far, but if we do, then any money we make from that, we're going to pour it back into the community, right? To value back to the speakers, and that's where the profit sharing comes in. And so we are doing this from really the point of view of the attendees of the conference. What value does it bring for them? For the speakers of the conference, what value does it bring for them? And then, what can we do to sustain, to continue to run this conference, right? Right now, we're not in a sustainable mode just yet, but we are hoping that continuing to run the conference with the US, market maybe getting better, we will have a, improvement in what we do. But it's a journey for us to learn from, right? That's one of the nice things is every single opportunity is an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to improve, and we are doing that. But the goals are very straightforward in our minds. We are here for the long haul. We're here for the right reasons. We're not here to make money in the short term and run away. That's not our goal. So we have sustained through this. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is money doesn't bring you happiness, but it gives you the leverage. So the wise decisions we have made for the past few decades has helped us for us to wither through these bad times and take these losses while building a really, really good conference. So from the outside, you see really a good conference, and I want you to, but from the inside, it's been a lot more difficult and effort to run this. But we knew coming in that it's not going to be easy. So it's no surprise that we have been facing challenges. But hey, that's what we are here for, right? If it's not challenging, anybody can do it, right? So
That's
so
true.
and anybody can do it badly. So our goal is not to do it badly. Our goal is to do it really, really well. And so we're not going to be any less enthusiastic in delivering that value as we go forward.
So I feel like for me, if I was the organizer, if I'm balancing paying good accommodating speakers, I might probably accept vendors to pitch them because that's how I feel like I'm getting money. So, but the fact that you have strict boundary, we're not doing this and we try to make it work regardless, is something very impressive.
And that's the hard part, right? It's easy to give in and to do the wrong things, in my opinion. It's and also to keep the cost, affordable. We don't want to charge enormous amount of money because, at the end of the day, it's not just us who are, making all these decisions. An employee who is truly eager to learn, truly eager to get better in their own career and to bring back to their company is putting the fight with their organization to say, I want to go to this conference. Can you support me to go to this conference? And I'll be absolutely honest about it. There are a number of attendees who are paying themselves to come to the conference because their companies are not willing to pay. And sometimes they even take a time off that week and come and attend the conference. And to make the cost affordable for them is very important for me. So if somebody says, hey, this is going to help me in my career, I'm going to take the week off, I'm going to pay for this, but is it something I can pay for? And what if that money that you are paying for is something that is within your reach as a developer, rather than saying, oh my gosh, it's going to break my bank if I have to pay this, right? And that is something we're very sensitive to. So we are, balancing a lot of things. And if our goal was to make things easy on ourselves, there are 1,000 routes we could take, but the goal is not to, be easy. The goal is to be right. And usually the right is not always easy. So, and that's kind of where the trick really is.
Yeah. So speaking of AI conference, so what do you think the most overhyped or underhyped thing about AI currently?
The most overhyped right now is this illusion that somehow AI is going to take over everything and we don't need humans to do anything. And especially within the programming world, the hype is we don't need programmers anymore. AI is going to program things. I had somebody come to me and said, hey, you don't understand. I am able to build software myself. We don't need programmers anymore. And this is a person I know fairly well. And then I asked this person, hey, I'm glad you're excited about it. That's cool. That's great. But I want to ask you a question. You are able to build the software yourself. That's awesome, right? But can you tell me what's the cost of failure for the software you are building? And his answer was, oh, there's no cost of failure for what I built, because what I built is software that does few interesting things, but it doesn't have any impact on just about anybody's lives. So if your software is not managing somebody's bank account, somebody's finance, if your software is not managing somebody's insurance, if your software is not managing a building construction project, if your software is not managing the flight tracking, if any of them were to fail, the cost is enormous. Cost comes in two forms. Cost comes from money, cost comes from life, or cost comes from injury, right? Health. So you could say financial cost and health cost. So if I build something and if that fails, and if you're not able to take a loved one to the hospital, or it misguides you on your way to the hospital and you end up in the wrong place, you can imagine what the cost of that is. It could be the cost of health or the cost of life, or both, depending on who is involved in it. Or it could be a bank that messes up a transaction and people don't have money to pay their mortgage next month. So as a result, they get penalized for the money they couldn't pay on time. There's consequences to that, right? So when there are repercussions to what we do, what we do must be more rigorous. And I want to emphasize this. All these words I'm using is not to say don't use AI. That's not where I'm going. But don't be hyped about using AI. That is the key. So AI is fantastic, but It is a tool that should be managed properly by a competent set of humans. You cannot, at the end of the day, you cannot outsource your reputation. You cannot outsource your responsibility. You cannot say, hey, if things break and fall apart, I'm not responsible because AI did it. Well, sadly, the court of law will not agree with you. We already have evidences for this. This is not hypothetical thing Venkat is saying. You can go research on this and make sure it's a valid research, not AI generated research. But you can research on this. And there are companies that got sued because AI was used to generate results and that really did not help the users of their products. So the companies were held responsible for the outcome. So you are responsible for your outcome. Whether you're using humans to build it, whether you're using AI to build it, whether you're using combination of them to build it, you as an organization is still responsible. And the hype right now is that people are not, willing to recognize that. They are looking at the speed at which they are generating code, but they're not asking the question, are we creating stuff that's actually maintainable? Are we going to be able to sustain this pace of development? And so this is the thing that I'm beginning to realize more and more. All the good engineering practices that we have been really focusing on for the past about 15 to 20 years are only more important now with AI and not any less important. Because with AI, you can move faster. When you can move faster, what you need is a better set of brakes. When your car can go faster, you need better brakes on it. Because what do brakes provide? Brakes provide the ability to go faster. If I have a brake that's not working well, I am going to be inching through the road. I'm not going to go drive on the road, right? There are times when you're in a car and you're like, my gosh, I'm smelling this brake and maybe I should be careful about it, right? I was coming down, as I mentioned, I live in Colorado. I was coming down the mountain one day, and this was, a couple of decades ago. I was coming down the mountain, and there's a checkpoint, and I pulled at the checkpoint. They put the meter, and they measure the temperature, and the officer looks at me and says, "You got to pull over and wait for an hour before you can drive because your brake is too hot. And if you drive at this temperature, you're going to have a brake failure, right?" So these are checkpoints in the mountain that they make sure your brake is not too hot for you to drive forward. And lessons I learned. And what did I learn? And I lived in Texas for 20 years. And, except for a little hill country in Texas, we don't have mountains in Texas. When I come here, we got 14,000 feet. We can go up into the mountain and come down. And little Venkat didn't understand that cars have, you can put them into low gears and you can drive them. And guess what happens when you put them in low gears? You drive slower. But when you drive slower, you don't burn the brakes as much, and your brakes don't get heated up as much. A couple of months ago, I went up one of the 14ers in my electric vehicle, and the officer, same thing, right? Checkpoint, asked me to stop, and looks at me and says, "You're driving an electric vehicle, right? So I can tell you, you are going to have no issue, but legally I'm required to check it still, so I'm going to still check it." And then puts the meter on it and says, "Yep, you're fine. You can continue to drive." Well, because electric cars, when they come down, they don't rush through as gasoline vehicles do, because they do regen on the way down and you're not burning your brakes. And so as a result, you're not using your brake as much when you come down because you're not going at an uncontrolled speed. But this is exactly the same situation with AI. AI gives you the power to go faster. But if you don't have the proper brakes, you're going to end up in a ditch. I was I love these kinds of situations where you can learn from something and you will remember this, decades later. This was literally about, 30 years ago. I was on a tour, and we were in a tour bus, and the bus driver takes us from the city all the way to a glacier. This was in Canada. So we are on the top of the mountain on the glaciers, and I'm like awestruck, right? Oh my gosh, look at these glaciers. And even in the middle of the summer, you got so much snow and ice that you're looking at. And then once we spend the time on it, we get onto the bus, we're coming down, and the driver says, "Is everybody ready?" And we're like, "Yep, we're all ready, excited. We had a great time here." And the driver said, "Okay, we're going to start our journey down, and we got two options. Option one is going to take us 90 minutes to get down. Option two will only take 20 seconds to get down." And then he said, "And I think you know which option I'm going to choose, the one that will take us there in 90 minutes. So we'll be actually alive to remember this trip." And to me, that is the whole point, right? Your goal is not to go fast. Your goal is to go safe as well. And so speed without discipline is not sustainable. So to me, the biggest hype today is on the speed of AI. But I think when we understand how to make it sustainable, and there are good practices to do it, that's a good news, right? The good news here today is not that this is hopeless, don't do it. The good news is there is really good things you can do to make that sustainable. But when you do, you're not going to have that uncontrolled speed. You don't want to get down in 20 seconds because the result is disastrous. But you don't have to be as slow as you were once, also. So the speed is going to be somewhere in between. So that hyped at speed, you're not going to sustain that. But that doesn't mean you go back to the speed you had before using AI. But you got to find that middle ground where you can get that sustainable speed rather than the unmaintainable speed. And I think we'll go through that pretty quickly. I think I'm giving myself a couple of years before the industry goes through the cycle and then realizes here is how we should really be using AI to gain our. To me, the speed of programmer is not important. What is important to me is the business agility. How quickly can I deliver results for the business? Not how quickly can I write code. Because quickly writing code is an untenable, unmaintainable measure. How can I quickly deliver value to the customers? And delivering value to the customer doesn't involve writing code. It involves writing code that is maintainable. And when a change has to happen, we want to be able to be sure that the change did not break what was already working. All that feedback loops we talk about in agile development comes very involved in AI. So to me, AI plus sustainable agile engineering practices will give us better results. Not AI alone, but in combination with sustainable engineering practices. I think that's absolutely essential.
That's really nice. So this is like the overhyped, right? So the underhype would be what would be for the AI?
The underhyped is that, to me, one of my aha moments has been that while AI is not super good in writing code, AI is fantastic in identifying issues with existing code. I call AI as an awesome investigator. That's what my definition of AI is. AI is really good in analysis, much more than generation. And I truly think that it's underhyped. We have heard a few newses recently, right, where AI has been used to find bugs that's been lingering around for decades in certain systems. But I think that's where more benefit would come out for companies. If companies are able to use AI to analyze existing code, to detect problems, to analyze data from their operations, I think the analysis aspect, we're going to gain a lot more from AI. I would say that's a bit underhyped. People are not talking about it enough, in my opinion.
Hmm. Speaking of 30 years ago, I was seeing your interview with Tolosko. I don't know if you remember 3 years ago. That means I think that specific scenario would be 33 years ago now, your first speaking event at Phoenix. So let's go back time traveling. And if you have to do it right now with the knowledge you have, what would you do for that specific speaking event?
Um, from 30 years ago.
Say that was your first speaking event and it was about his dissertation topic.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, a lot. I now know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So this was back in 1993. I was working on my PhD at that time, and as part of my PhD, I had a paper accepted to speak in a conference that was being held in Phoenix, and the entire talk was for 20 minutes, and I cannot even tell you how much time I spent practicing for this talk over and over and over. And what I realized today is when you are a novice, you practice very differently than when you are an expert. This has been like the aha moment for me. So, as a novice, you are practicing the talk over and over and over. Sometimes you're even trying to memorize what you're going to say, and everything gets derailed because once you get there you feel absolutely nervous. You are like a deer in a headlight, right? And you're not able to really think through how to present because you're just overwhelmed by this opportunity to be in front of people and giving a talk. As an expert, you prepare very differently for giving a talk. Today, I prepare for a talk. There's the worst talks are the ones I could deliver without preparing, but I prepare very differently than I did 30 years ago. So what would I do differently? Uh, that's hard to answer because as a novice, you cannot behave as an expert. As an expert, you shouldn't behave as a novice, right? So it's taking the time for the journey. And I suppose that's part of life is to go through that journey, to go through that experience, but to be able to learn from it and to succeed so that we get better. And maybe if I were to really rethink about it, maybe I will tone down the practice that I'm doing and instead focus on the subject that I want to deliver and internalize it more than the words that would be spoken, which is kind of my focus today is to really internalize the topic a lot more and then be able to speak on it. And the words kind of get generated on the fly, but the concepts are in your mind quite ingrained because you're spending time thinking about them and walking through them and preparing the topic rather than the talk. Maybe that's a distinction if I were to draw is prepare for the topic, not for the talk. So as a novice you prepare for the talk, as an expert you prepare for the topic, I guess.
So the reason I ask is because I'm going to be giving a speaking event. I'm going to be speaking in the conference in September. So the the distinction you gave in the specific interview that I mentioned was the difference between storytelling and the tell. So do you have an example of like how to approach this could be the storytelling version, but this is going to be the tale version of it, and we should avoid that one. Do you have a
Yeah,
scenario?
I
Okay.
always say that tell a story but not a tale. Stories are very useful to ground ideas in people's mind. So stories are very important. Tale, unfortunately, distracts the audience from the main point, and they will lose interest in it. So for example, right, I could say AI is great for finding issues. Oh, by the way, as an example, I was working on a production system when the team was struggling for 6 months. They couldn't find the issue, but we unleashed AI on it. And within a matter of seconds, it was able to point to us on areas that we didn't even consider. Sure, the programmers had to go investigate further, but it really, gave us the focus in the areas of interest. That's storytelling right there, right? But a tale would be, oh, you know what? This was in, Flagstaff, Arizona. There was this company. I had to take a flight. I got there. My flight got delayed. I ended up being late. Now you are doing a tale, and people are wondering, where is this person going, right? And what is this? How is this related to the topic that I'm going to get into? A lot of times, people would get derailed into the story, and the focus becomes the story. That's when it becomes a tale, rather than keeping the story to bring relevance to the topic, but you got to surface back to the topic. So that is the distinction between those two. Is you want to make it lively. So one of the key things is when you read books, good books. One of the things good books do is good books don't lay out facts and walk away. Laying out facts in a talk is like giving vegetables to children and saying, eat it. And no child likes eating vegetables, right? Because vegetables are bland. There's not a whole lot to enjoy in eating vegetables. But a mild amount of spice adds to the taste. Your stories are the spice you bring to the facts, to the data, to the topic. So you want to really sprinkle these anecdotes, sprinkle these metaphors into your talk, then people get really attached to it. Otherwise, the facts become too bland, and people get really bored listening to your talk. And so you want to really keep the audience interested. This is where the distinction comes in. You want to really look at these as two extremes. You're delivering a set of facts, and you could go in and say, well, you want to build a system, here are the things you should do. Write your test cases, have continuous feedback loops. You can just plow through these concepts one after the other, and people are just sitting there and thinking, I would rather paint my toenails than listen to this person, right? Because it's just boring of a talk. Then the other extreme, you walk in and you start telling jokes and you start telling these tales. And for the first few minutes, people are chuckling and they're like, that's funny. And then within a few minutes, they are beginning to ask, why am I here? If I want to go listen to a comedy show, I would have been elsewhere. I don't need to be here. And this goes back to what I mentioned earlier, is as a speaker, I did not value the time of the person who is in front of me, because I'm telling them these tales in the store, these jokes, rather than bringing the content. So one of the things I often talk about is be mindful of the information density. So to me, information density is given amount of time, within the time, how much value were you able to provide information wise for the listener? And to me, that information density is important. So if it tells tales, I am taking away, I'm lowering the density, information density. But at the same time, if I only deliver facts, the information density is high, but it's not useful to ability to consume it goes away. So you got to strike that balance, right? And that's where the stories come in and the metaphors come in. So the stories and metaphors give the ability to attach to these facts, and they become these careers of these facts. So think of it like a capsule. You take the medicine, you throw the capsule in a mouth and you swallow it. It becomes easy to take it, right? It's like Mary Poppins, famous song, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Well, a little, story makes the fact go down a lot better. That's the whole idea, is that balance we have to strike between the two.
Yeah, I actually your speech are exactly like that. Even at the Java user group in Dallas, even in arc of AI. It's exactly like that. It has a flow. It's easy to follow and structure. So yeah, that's amazing. And you have a very special scenario you do while giving a speech. Would you like to cover that one, or let the audience see when they're seeing your conference, seeing at the conference or at the meetup?
Which
Because
one are you referring to specifically?
the one I asked you in the first like meetup, I was like, why do you remove shoes when you?
Removing the shoes, that's a minor thing. It just is comfortable not wearing the shoe. In all honesty, I'm not wearing my shoe right now either. So typically I don't wear my shoes when I give a talk or when I'm making a presentation. It just is comfortable, right? So shoes have a very dedicated purpose. Shoes are, to me, the primary purpose of a shoe is safety. When you walk, you don't want to get your toes stubbed. That hurts a lot. And you don't want to have something on your feet that pokes you through. So shoes have really good value. I go hiking into the mountains. I cannot imagine going to the mountains without proper shoes, right? And at that point I need to have better shoes than what I normally wear, because I need also grip to climb some of these trails as well. When I'm standing in a podium and giving a talk, a shoe serves really no purpose. I'm in a very safe stage normally, and nothing's going to hurt me. And so why bother having a shoes? It just feels like I'm at home, and it just gives me the feeling of I feel the floor with my toes, which really kind of says that, hey, this is all normal stuff. We're just doing our regular things. It's nothing really unusual.
Have you ever met any other speaker who does that?
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely. One
oh,
other person I know of is Dave Thomas, the pragmatic programmer.
oh, okay.
Yeah, at least.
Okay,
Yeah.
another question that I have is, remember this? So I heard this is designed by your son,
The logo is, yes.
the logo, right?
Yeah,
So
he's a graphic designer, yes.
did he came up and say, okay, I want to design, or you say, okay,
Oh no, I am much better than that. So I was on a I'll tell you the true stories.
okay.
I am good at a little few things in the world, and I'm terrible at a whole lot of other things. And so I was on a 10-hour flight from Europe to the US, and so as I got into the flight, I designed a logo. And it took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And when I finished designing the logo, I sent it to my family, and I said, here's the logo for this new conference we're going to start. And within about a few minutes, my son replied back saying, dear God, no.
Now I want to see that design.
So all I did was I created an absolutely terrible design. And his reply was, dear God, no. And I'm like, what do you not like about it? He said, Dad, just chill. Just chill. I'll get back to you. And I made him so angry. The only thing he could do was to create a logo. So he creates this and says, what do you think of this? I'm like, I love it. And he kind of had these elements in the mind about what I wanted in there. And so maybe one day in the museum we'll have my original logo, which only three people have ever seen in this world, and nobody else should ever see it. and and then of course that's something he designed, but not by me asking, but by me creating a terrible logo, and that absolutely made him angry, and he had to go create a really good logo.
Was it intentional to just make him come up with the idea, or it's just like genuinely like the logo and ship it out?
Oh, it's not necessarily intentional, but we have to move forward, right? We need a logo to move forward. I can sit down and wait for people to help me, or I'm like, I'm going to create the worst logo in the world, and the only direction we can go from here is only better. And I didn't realize he would bite it so quickly, but he took the bait and he said, gosh, I got to create a logo so the world doesn't have to be tortured by the logo you created. So that worked out really well.
So the reason I bring is because some companies, I don't have a research to back this up, but some companies are staying away from hiring junior, mid-level developers. Of course, some of them are proactive and they're okay. But what do you think the cost would be like to closing that pipeline? Because now, because of the trust you have for your son, we're having amazing water drinking bottle in our household, and if it was not for that and giving him the opportunity to do that, we wouldn't be having this amazing design. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, so I wouldn't say he's a beginner in this specific
Oh,
case because
okay.
he's got some really good experience over the years already. Um, but he got to where he was because he has been given that opportunity by companies, right? So when they hired him and said, "Hey, we really see the potential in you," and given that opportunity. But to go back to your question, the key here is um, think of think about the pipeline. Today's juniors are tomorrow's experts. So 10 years from now, who is going to be the expert? Those are the juniors today. And if you don't give the opportunity to for the juniors to practice, to make mistakes, to learn from the experts around them, your experts are going to eventually retire. They're not going to be there forever. And all of a sudden, you're going to have this huge gap in your pipeline. And you're not going to wake up one morning and say, hey, I need experts tomorrow. Where can I find them? Well, no, we removed those experts from even forming. And where are you going to get them suddenly? And here is the unfortunate situation you're going to find. There will be people who still are working very hard in spite of the fewer opportunities, and those will become experts. But you will have fewer experts, not as many. But guess what's going to happen? Big companies have big pockets. And when they have big pockets, they have the power to go hire anyone they want. So the companies that will suffer the most are the small businesses and the medium sized businesses. That is something we need to keep in mind. So as a small business and a medium sized business, when you need to go hire good talent, you're going to have trouble hiring good talent because the bigger companies will grab whatever talent is left. And so to me, the biggest challenge here is the gap in the pipeline. And when the pipeline breaks, you need more time to fix it. And for people to be able to grow into that level of expertise, I hope we recognize that and start really providing enough opportunity to grow the next generation of developers as well.
Yeah, that's very true. So you speak all over the world. Recently, I saw in Kenya, some other time in Europe, different places. And what are like the pros and cons of being non-stop traveling for conference on top of being a lecturer at Houston University, writing a book, organizing a conference, and all those?
I would say the pros really is you continue to learn. To me, that is one of the most exciting things is you continue to learn, to broaden your mind, to be able to come back with new energy and new ideas. I can tell you how many ideas I've gotten for writing books, writing articles, creating new talks, creating new products, to create things. A lot of ideas come when you're really mingling with people and learning from them. To me, that is one of the reasons I keep going out to user groups, to go out to conferences, to go out to events, because it's a great learning experience. And you don't have to travel that far oftentimes. Your local user group is a great place to go to continue to learn. But on the other side, the flip side, traveling constantly, has various negative consequences, time away from the family, right? That's a huge as well sacrifice. The way you have to coordinate a few things, you got to plan a few things really, really ahead, because you can't just jump into a meeting when you want to jump into a meeting or meet a relative or meet a friend, because that takes time because you're traveling so much. Health becomes an issue as well. You got to be careful what you eat, where you eat. If you're not careful, you can put on a lot of weight. A lot of other consequences can come after that. Your health begins to suffer. So you have to be careful about it. One of the things I tend to do is, a lot of times when I stay in a hotel, the hotel may not even have a gym, or the gym may be very inadequate. They have a gym to check that box. Here we have a gym, and you go in and you're like, "What? This is not a gym. This has got two dumbbells and not a whole lot of anything, and the treadmill doesn't even work." So you got to find ways to be creative. You got to find maybe a gym nearby and go to the gym, or you have to, run on the streets and exercise where you can. Honestly, there are times when I go to the gym at 2 a.m. because I've got to go to the airport at 3:30. So you are at the gym at 2 a.m. You work out for an hour. 3 o'clock, come take a very quick shower, and you're off to the airport at 3:30 in the morning. You have to do that. So a lot of sacrifice comes from it as well, and that's the flip side. So if you are, a person who likes to have a comfortable time, proper sleep hours, a planned set of things, that travel doesn't work so well for you. So there's pluses and minuses. That's a part of the, two sides of a coin. You can't just have one and not the other.
Yeah. Have you ever worked in a corporate, like being hired? Because on your LinkedIn, I didn't see like that. And I was
Yes, I did. A long time ago. My last job was in the year 1999. So I did work I call it as a real job. I did have a real job in 1999. So I've been gainfully unemployed for about 26 years now, or 27 years
so
now.
your major what is it job at the moment is like being a speaker, consulting companies, and conference in. Mhm.
I do consulting, training, mentoring. So I do a lot of corporate, training and consulting. That's where my main focus is. I also part-time teach at the University of Houston, but that's just a part-time job that I have. But my main work is in the industry, corporate training, consulting, mentoring. Yeah.
So how do you manage, I mean, time management? Some people might not like the word time management, but how do you allocate your time to do? Because like you have to far ahead planning what you should do in the next few weeks, and also like you have to be present for family. How do you manage all those?
That's one of the things I've kind of learned over the time is I would say my superpower is my ability to focus. I'm extremely focused in what I do, and so I typically what I do is I compartmentalize. I'm not a I don't need much tools and motivators around me. I'm very self-motivated. So I compartmentalize things very clearly. So I would say, I mean, honestly, when I start my day, literally my day starts with a piece of paper which contains things I should do. And I list down things that I need to work on that day. And I say, well, that's a task I'm going to work on, and select the task. And until the task is done, I'm not going to do anything more. So I don't check my emails. I don't respond to emails during the day, and I'm not on Slack. So I'm not, constantly being pinged. This is one of the things people don't often realize is I don't have notifications on my computer at all. So my computer wouldn't come and ping me and say, "Ting, you have a message." Turned off all notifications. Problem with notification is that the minute you see a notification, you are looking at it and it derails your thought process. So my phone is set up so that the phone will ring only when my wife calls, and that's it. And anybody else calls, my phone will not ring at all. So I'm not disturbed by phone calls. So when my wife calls is when it'll ring, and she really knows She will only call me if it's an emergency, not otherwise. And so we have this discipline built around what we do. And so I can just focus. I can, when I want to write a chapter, I would sit down, I can go for 10 hours and not be interrupted. I can focus for 10 hours. I can focus for 30 minutes. I can focus for 15 minutes. Tell me a time, I can focus. And that really helps. I don't do multitasking. I compartmentalize my time. So when I say I want to work on this, I work on that for whatever duration, right? 3 hours, that's it. That's all I'm going to focus on for the next 3 hours. And then when that is done, oh, I finished that task. Let me see which one I want to work on next. And I also don't ask the question, how much time it'll take for something. I ask the question, what can I get done in the time that's available? So I may have 10 minutes. Okay, what can I do in 10 minutes? Rather than asking how much time this will take. When I go to the airport, I travel a lot, as you know. And when I go to the airport, my flight is at boarding at 10:30. The worst thing to do in an airport is, oh, am I going to miss my boarding? Well, it's pointless. So I set my alarm to go off at 10:30, and I would just open up what I need to do, start working on it. At 10:30, the alarm goes off. I'm like, why is my alarm going off? Oh, darn it, I got to board now because it says boarding starting. And I would just close things and walk up to boarding.
Mm,
Having this focus helps a lot to get things done.
mm. Were you always like this, or that you have
No, no, not at all. These are things you learn along the way, and that's the whole point about being successful is is to learn what works better and
Mm,
keep changing things so that you find what works better, and to drop things that don't work really well. When you buy a new device, you're like, "Ooh, this is cool! It's got notification on it." Well, then you realize every few minutes you get pinged by somebody and gets you distracted. Why? This is the funny part. People will come to me and say, oh my gosh, Venkat, you reply so quickly to everything.
mm,
Well, that's because I follow a rule. And the rule is tell me now or tell me when. So tell me now or tell me when. I blogged about it a few years ago. So if you send me an email, within 24 hours, I'll reply to you and say, here you go. This is what you wanted, and here you go. Or I'll reply to you and say, hey, I got your message. I'm going to get back to you on Saturday. I'm going to get back to you on Tuesday. And then it goes in my calendar as a reminder, hey, you need to get back on this topic by this day so I can focus on it at that time. So I don't really keep things pending. If I don't reply to you for 3 days, you're going to ping me again and say, hey, wait a minute, what happened to this? I don't
yeah,
like to get pinged. And I'll tell you, hey, you told me this, you want this, I'm going to get it to you on Tuesday. Don't bother me until then, and I'll get it to you on Tuesday, right? Or if you say, I need this by Wednesday, I'm going to get back to you on by Wednesday
mm,
because that's the time you want it, right? And so being a bit more disciplined, you're also respectful of other people's time as well. And when you're respectful of other people's time, that's a way to respect your own time also. So these are little things I learned along the way. Uh, these are things I wish I had known, earlier. But it's, as they say, right? It's better late than never.
mhm. Actually, when I was reaching out to you to do the LinkedIn Live, I was expecting for you to say, oh, I'm busy traveling, I don't have time. So by the time you say it's like, okay, let's do it, and they give me two option, I choose the earliest, which is today, 27, and I didn't even know how to do LinkedIn Live, so I have to go figure out. So yeah, I was not expecting for you to have time, and thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you.
Oh, I always believe that nobody is busy, honestly, right? You will never hear me say that I'm busy. Nobody is busy. We are only disorganized. So if we are more organized, we have no issues at all.
Yeah. So next is you wrote several books. I might be I might need some correction in the numbers, but 14 or 16 so far, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And how was the writing time? So when you're writing a book, do you stop the other commitments? For example, speaking at conference and events in the training part, do you pause them, or you still manage to work parallel both because it's a lot of books. I don't know how many span of year during you wrote those all, but I feel like it's a lot. Even writing one book might be a lot, dealing with like publishers and stuff. And I was wondering, how do you manage to publish that
Yeah,
amount?
so most of the books I've written the first draft in 1 week, or maybe 1.5 weeks. So usually I'll find like the week of Thanksgiving, and hey, the weeks of Thanksgiving is a holiday. Well, that's great. So I would lock myself in a room. I mean, I'm not saying this metaphorically. I'm saying literally. My family would pass food through the under the door, and for 1 week they don't see me, and I just sit there and cram through and write my first draft. So I've done that for a few books. For a few other books, um, I go to Europe about twice a month, so which means you have about 8 to 10 hours of flight time, about 3 or 4 times a month. Well, that's a 40 hours right there in a flight. Flights are great because nobody is calling you on the phone, or pinging you, or nobody is around you knocking on your door. So you get this kind of odd way to say it, right? You get this moment of isolation in a flight that you normally don't get otherwise. So I would just typically get into a flight, flip open my laptop, and would do a first draft of a book in a flight. So of a chapter rather in a flight. So if it's a book with let's say 8 chapters, that's 8 flights back and forth to Europe, and you got first draft of a chapter done. So again, not be tempted to watch movies on the flight, but to sit and write a chapter, right, becomes a lot more easier to focus on things. And again, a lot of these flights now have internet access. For the past couple of years, we didn't have internet access back in time. So you go into a flight, there's no internet, so there's nothing you can do other than stare at a TV screen, or you can stare at your laptop screen. And I would rather write a chapter. And people would say, my gosh, but don't you need an internet to write a chapter? In my case, typically, I've done enough research on things I wanted to really write about. And sure, there'll be a few gaps that I may not really be able to write without looking up on the internet, but those things can be filled in with a placeholder. But you can pretty much focus on writing. And a lot of times, writing a book is really staring at the ceiling to come up with a good example to write. So you're sitting there in an airplane, and you're kind of sitting there and staring at the ceiling, and then you're like, let me see if this example will work better. And you're tossing out that example because it's not really that good, trying something else, and then you're putting them together. So typically on a 10-hour flight, you can get a fairly good set of examples for a chapter written as well.
Do you have favorite book from all those lists?
Oh, every one of them is my favorite.
All of them, no hierarchy.
No, all of them have been, right? So to me, again, one of the reasons I write books is I've got a story to tell. And so when I typically, work on a topic or explore a topic, learning about it, or, using it at work, and I say, ooh, this is actually something really interesting to write about. And here are a few stories that would make it really, exciting to write about. Then I get excited about it and write it. So every one of the books really has come out of that experience. So all of them are favorite at the time of writing.
Should we expect a book on AI? Because I feel like there's so many stories.
No, I never plan for a book ahead of time, so I don't know. So I don't sit there and say I have to write a book. Well, I do have a book I want to write, but that's nothing technical at all, and it's probably not going to get written anytime soon. But other than that book, I don't think I sit down and say I want to write a book. Usually, it is just a lot of times a book idea comes minutes before I write it, honestly. So I would be on a walk or a hike and like, oh, this could be a really good topic to write about. And now I cannot stop thinking about it. I just immediately rush over to start writing it. So usually that's how I write books. I don't plan for it ahead of time.
Nice. Yeah, we covered a little about working with family, and I know you co-organize the conferences with your wife. And how is it like working with a family? And yeah, and the food was amazing, by the way. It was. I heard she's the one who created that buffet, and it was amazing balance of healthy and amazing snacks. The food, everything was good.
That's one of the things I honestly have enjoyed in this journey is really getting to know. We've been married for more than 30 plus years now, coming close to 35 years now. So we've been married for a long time. But yet, when she decided to work on this conference, there are aspects of her that I didn't even know that I know about, right? You kind of see somebody in a different role or a responsibility, and it's been a wonderful journey to watch her take all those additional responsibilities. But one of the things also that I really like is she would suddenly come up with these ideas and send me a text or an email and say, we need to talk about this. I got this idea. And then the next thing you know, I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that. That's amazing. So let's think about how we can accommodate that or how we can do it. So there's a lot of creativity in it, and I'm able to see the creative aspects that she brings to the table. So it's been a very raising the family is one thing, but now that she is kind of post those responsibilities, is the question is, hey, what are you going to do as an empty nester? uh, she is busier than ever, running these conferences and taking on so many responsibilities that I don't think I could do without that kind of help. So it's been a great experience. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, and it was a very welcoming. And yeah, I'm happy to get to know her as well. It was happy. I was happy to be in that conference. It was 175 people, I believe, and it was just so amazing. I get to have the first interview uh, done the Utah user group because you recommended that. So now I like it. Okay, I should do this more. So it's been a journey, and I love it. It's really good.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful to see you as well to take on these responsibilities to see you take on this journey and 30 years from now you will be on the other side talking about these journeys. So make sure to keep good memories of those as you go through these journeys.
Yep. So uh, you're also a Java champion, right? I think we can close with that one. How was your journey? I know everyone's journey to be a Java champion is different. And how was yours? And if you have any message for developers joining recently to the tech field with the AI, how to integrate all that, you can wrap up with that.
So to me, one of the things I often say is get recognized for what you do, but don't do things to be recognized. There is a difference here. We need to be very careful with the fine line. If we do things to be recognized, there are two problems with it. The first is you may not get recognized and you're going to feel very disappointed. And the second problem is if you do get recognized, then that becomes like you fall off and you're like, okay, I got recognized. I don't need to do this anymore. So to me, I go around and do what I do. I truly enjoy uh, being with the community. I like to share what I know. I learn from the community. I help the community learn a bit along the way from me as well. So being there and writing books, speaking in conferences, going to user groups and speaking in user groups. Today I speak in about 25 or 30 user groups every year. And if you look at my website, you will see that I typically speak in about 30 user groups every single year. And to me, I don't stop speaking in user groups because I'm a Java champion. I continue to do that. Why? Because that's something I've been caring about for a long time, and I continue to do these things. So I go to events. I go offer my time. I offer whatever I can to help the community along the way. and then suddenly you get called on. They say, gosh, we decided to give you a Java champion. And you're like, well, thank you, but I'm not doing it because you're going to recognize, and I'm not going to stop doing it because you already recognized it. So to me, be recognized for what you do, but don't do things to be recognized. I think that generally works really well, because then your mind is in the right place and you are working hard to do things that you care about. And the fact that you get recognized is a little cherry on the top, but that's not what you are really going there for.
And advice for developers.
Help and be helped. That is the key. Help, first of all. Everybody, I think, is going to get benefit from your help. So do help, and be helped. Don't be stubborn and feel like, oh, I shouldn't ask for help. There are times when there are people absolutely willing to help if only you would just ask for help. So I mean, you'd be surprised when I go to some groups and say, hey, I'm here, any help you need, ask. And so few people will actually ask for help when they can actually benefit. So don't hesitate to ask for help. So help and be helped.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know I booked for 1 hour, but it's way past that. But thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to do this again. And hopefully we'll get to meet for the conference or user group in Java here in Dallas. So yeah, thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you so again very much, Yorit, for having me, and best wishes for all things ahead for you as well.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.